Ας περάσουμε στο επόμενο μας θέμα τώρα, που έχει να κάνει με το σεμινάριο που διοργάνωσε το Lobby for Cyprus με θέμα The Right to Vote in Referenda. Το σεμινάριο έλαβε χώρα στις 24 Μαΐου στο Hellenic Centre στο Κεντρικό Λονδίνο. Σε αυτό το σεμινάριο έλαβαν μέρος πολλές οργανώσεις και σωματεία της Μεγάλης Βρετανίας. Προεδρεύων στο σεμινάριο ήταν ο κύριος Μάρκος Παπαδόπουλος, ο οποίος είναι εκδότης και αρχισυντάκτης του περιοδικού Politics First Magazine. Πρώτος ομιλητής σε αυτό το σεμινάριο ήταν η δόκτωρ Θεοδώρα Χρίστου, η οποία είναι ανεξάρτητη ειδικός σε θέματα ανθρωπίνων δικαιωμάτων και στον Ευρωπαϊκό Νόμο. Ας περάσουμε να παρακολουθήσουμε ένα απόσπασμα της ομιλίας της δόκτωρος Θεοδόρας Χρίστου.
Editor of Politics First, which is one of the major political magazines. He's also a celebrity of his own right. Those of you that watch RT will see him interviewed there almost daily. So I'd like to thank him for agreeing to chair our seminar, but also to thank him for the support he's shown Lobby for Cyprus over the years through his magazine. Thank you. Okay, so some of you have already seen these slides, so I apologize, but let's just go through this quickly. So we all know that the next referendum on a settlement to end the Turkish occupation of Cyprus will be crucial to Cyprus. And so at Lobby for Cyprus, we thought, what can we do other than everything that we're already doing? And we looked back to 2004 and the Annan Plan, and we realized something that very few people actually realized, which is that in 2004, the refugees of the diaspora did not have a right to vote. And so that got us thinking, and we started doing our research across the world to see what happens in referendums generally. And so that's the background to our campaign. And our question is, why should we of the diaspora be excluded? If we go back to 74, the reality is not, in fact, very complex. You know, when you speak to outsiders, as soon as you mention Cyprus, then they say, oh, that's a very complicated situation. It's quite simple. Turkey invaded, they raped, they murdered, they intimidated. The Greek Cypriots did not leave voluntarily, they fled for their lives. And ever since, they have been denied access to their lands and to their homes by the occupying Turkish military forces. So really the only true complication when it comes to Cyprus is Turkey and the unwillingness of particular foreign governments to deal with Turkey as they should. So legal terminology, what happened to the refugees and the internally displaced people of 74 is known as forced displacement. Forced displacement in turn is classified as ethnic cleansing under the Rome Statute and is in fact an international war crime. So Turkey paints a pretty picture. Turkey paints a picture of the Greek Cypriots living happily ever after, that they left voluntarily and that they live in a prosperous Cyprus with all the mod-cons that they would like and so forth. The reality is not that. The reality is, for those of you who have visited any of the refugee settlements within Cyprus, that they live in homes that were designed and set up for temporary shelter. 42 years later, they're living in these cramped conditions. And in fact, the resilience of the Greek Cypriots is used against them, when in fact it shouldn't. So in 2004, we've already talked about the Annan Plan. The refugees were in fact forgotten. Who got to vote on behalf of the Republic of Cyprus? As we said, only those that were already registered to vote. So in other words, those who satisfy the 6-month criteria for residency, which we'll return to. On the other hand, who voted on the Turkish side for the Turkish Cypriots? Of course, the colonists voted. What's their interest in all this? Is it in their interest to leave? No. What interest do they have in the occupied areas? But yet Turkey extended the right to vote to those colonists who in fact are Turkey's tools of ethnic cleansing. So, what of the refugees? So given the length of time that has passed since the occupation, so 42 years, In all likelihood, most of the refugees would have by now lost their right to vote if they ever had it. And those who have then had children, their children are unlikely to actually have or possess the right to vote. So as Nick said, why should they not have a right to decide the fate and the future of their lands? In fact, they didn't have a say when they first left. So contrary, if those of you who know, when you apply to the Immovable Property Commission of Turkey, you sign a declaration that you voluntarily left, because that's what Turkey wants everyone to believe, that the Greek Cypriots just decided to leave. They weren't forced out. They didn't leave they left of their own free will. So that's not the reality. The argument in favor of them voting is because this settlement will decide whether they're permanently displaced or whether they get to go back. And that's a critical issue for them. So they had no control the first time when they lost their homes. They had no control over what's been negotiated by the politicians, and they had no say in the Annan plan on what happens. So effectively, they've had no voice to date. But our campaign doesn't stop at the refugees. When we look at extending the eligibility to vote in Cyprus, one thing we have to point out is that our focus is on the Greek Cypriot election rights. And I put Greek Cypriots in brackets because when we talk of Greek Cypriots and elections, we don't only mean Greek Cypriots, we also mean the Armenians, the Maronites, and the Latin Cypriots and all other minorities in Cyprus. Because under the 1960 constitution, you have two electoral rolls. You have the Greek Cypriot electoral roll and the Turkish Cypriot electoral roll. So when we talk of Greek Cypriot rights, we extend it to everyone who falls within that electoral rights. That was important to clarify. So on eligibility to vote, we go beyond the original victims of displacement, and we would propose that the right to vote is extended to all those who either hold citizenship of the Republic of Cyprus or who are eligible to apply for citizenship. Eligibility, some may say, well, why don't they go and get it? Well, in reality, if you're eligible to be a Cypriot citizen, the whole procedure, the bureaucratic process of obtaining it is just that, it's bureaucratic. You still hold the right. So that's why we would extend it to those who don't actually hold citizenship but would be eligible. But the important key is here that we would not include a residency requirement. The obvious reason is, who has in these modern days the time to pause their life for 6 months, move to Cyprus and live there for 6 months in order to obtain the right to vote? Very few people. So in effect, that residency requirement acts as an obstacle and a bar to people obtaining the right to vote, even if they already hold Cypriot citizenship. So why all Cypriots? Obviously, when we say all Cypriots, there have been objections raised from the community and from the political quarters. So arguments that people say to us is like, well, if we extend the right to Cypriots of the diaspora, then Turkey will also extend the right to Turkish Cypriots of the diaspora too. In response to that, we have no issue. In fact, we would welcome the Turkish Cypriots of the diaspora voting, and we would prefer that they vote instead of the colonists, the Turkish colonists who are located in the occupied areas of Cyprus. The second objection, if we expand the pool of eligible voters, then Turkey will also do the same. Well, this is what I call a reality check. When have we or anyone else ever had control over what Turkey actually does? Turkey will do whatever it wants to do, whether we do it or not. So depriving our own citizens of a right, just because Turkey might use it as an excuse to expand their control, is, in my understanding, not a valid point. So then the other questions we get is, well, why should those who don't live in Cyprus interfere with Cyprus, and why should they have a say? So in other words, why should anyone in the diaspora vote or overseas? And why should those who have not lost their villages have a vote? I mean, I personally have been involved with Lobby for Cyprus since 1999. I'm not a refugee. Theo, who is our coordinator, has been involved with Lobby from Cyprus from the start. He also is not a refugee. I would say that quite a few people in this audience are not refugees. Yet that doesn't stop us from feeling the connection to Cyprus and from campaigning for justice in Cyprus. And this is what I term enfranchisement. So basically, the fact that we're non-resident to Cyprus doesn't mean that we've lost our connection to Cyprus. The fact, and this has been acknowledged by government, and they've not only acknowledged, but also they've benefited from it. Whenever they come to London, or whenever they go to America or Canada, or wherever it is that they find Greek Cypriot communities, they benefit from the fact. You know, we host them, we facilitate their visits, we get them meetings with people. I mean, so the acknowledgement is there that we have not lost our connection to Cyprus, because if we had, they would have nothing to come to. So not allowing us to vote, in effect, will disenfranchise us. So through the decades, we have assisted in shaping Cyprus. So whether it is through politics or whether it's the economic crisis. I mean, when the economic crisis hit Cyprus, there were a lot of movements and initiatives and activities that we in the diaspora run to assist Cyprus. When there's, so we do a lot from external. The fact that we're not residents doesn't really affect us in any way. And then something that I will return to is that the global trends across the world that we identified when we did our research are actually pointing us towards this expanded scope of eligibility. So quickly back to the law. The law of the Republic of Cyprus, can we pass a specific law which will determine who votes in a referendum? Yes. Another objection that we hear from the politicians is that it's too hard, we'll need to amend our constitution. That's not true. Not only have I done my research, but I've also consulted with constitutional experts and professors in Cyprus, and they have confirmed time and time again that no constitutional amendment is required in order to extend the right to vote to those in the diaspora for a referendum. So there's a third objection dealt with. So what can we do? Well, there is a general law on referendums in Cyprus, so we could in effect amend this piece of legislation, but if we amend this piece of legislation, it means that it won't only apply to the referendum on the Cyprus settlement, but it will apply to all referendums. The other option is what happened in 2004. So 2004, we had the adoption of a special law, which in effect changed the voting time. So expanded the time that was allowed for voting to occur. So this is the proposal that Lobby is putting forward, which is to adopt a special law which would extend the eligibility of voters on the referendums on a settlement to end the occupation. So the aim of this would be to secure the right of citizens in diaspora to vote in a referendum. It is limited in scope, as we said. It does not apply to general elections or local mayor elections. It solely applies to the referendum.
Επόμενος ομιλητής ήταν ο Dr. Vassilis Mavrou, πρόεδρος του Famagusta Association of Great Britain, ο οποίος συμμετέχει σε όλες τις εκδηλώσεις που έχουν να κάνουν με τα δικαιώματα των προσφύγων και την επιστροφή τους στις πατρογονικές εστίες τους. Ο προεδρεύων κ. Μάρκος Παπαδόπουλος κάλεσε στο βήμα τον δόκτορα Βασίλη Μαύρου. Ας παρακολουθήσουμε τη σύντομη ομιλία του.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Theodora, for what was a very compelling and thorough analysis, and it was put forward in a very heartfelt manner, so thank you very much for that. Okay, so that concludes the contributions from the panel members. I'm now going to give the floor to representatives from the refugee associations. The first representative will be Dr. Vassilis Mavrou of the Famagusta Association.
On behalf of the associations that are involved in this campaign, I would like to thank Theodora and Lobby for Cyprus for organizing this event. Cyprus is one of the 6 European Union member states which deprives its nationals resident abroad of the rights to vote to national parliamentary and presidential elections. This rule could amount to infringement of their freedom of movement and residence under European Union laws. There is no doubt that this is a gross violation of European Union citizenship rights. It discourages citizens to move to another member state and can be seen as a violation of freedom of movement and residence of European Union residents. Unfortunately, Cyprus violates Article 3 of the first protocol of the European Convention of Human Rights for the right to regular, free and fair elections. The fact that the relevant legislation in Cyprus states that there is no need to be habitually resident in Cyprus to be eligible to stand up for elections comes in contrast with the 6 months habitual residency requirement needed for eligibility to vote in the island. This is totally different to the view that many other European Union states take, where they reserve seats in their national parliament for the representatives of their expatriate citizens. These countries are, for example, Italy, Portugal, France, Croatia, and for the Senate House, France and Italy, most of them voting electronically or by postal vote. Since 1974, a very high percentage of Cypriot refugees were forcibly thrown out of their homes and property and had no other choice but to leave Cyprus and migrate. There is therefore no doubt that the relevant legislation on excluding all categories of Cypriots that live abroad is discriminatory and totally unfair. What we are asking is for the Cypriot government and the parliament to correct this unjust situation. The starting point is to allow the displaced refugees of diaspora to vote when the time comes for a possible referendum for a solution to the Cyprus problem. It is unacceptable and at the same time unthinkable to exclude a great part of the refugees from Cyprus, forced out from their land and temporarily migrated in a referendum for a solution to the Cyprus problem. It is very well known fact that the argument that once this right is reinstated to Greek Cypriots, then a great part of Turkish Cypriots will receive the same rights of voting, it doesn't stand. This is because nearly all Turkish Cypriots are registered voters in Cyprus and are already benefited from other services in the island. Paradoxically, Turkish and Kurdish settlers in the occupied part of Cyprus have also been registered as voters and showed their presence at the 2004 unplanned referendum. It is therefore absolutely discriminatory and unjust not to allow at least the refugees forced to live abroad to be able to vote in such a referendum. There is no doubt in our minds that the Cypriot state downgrades and dismisses this group of refugees. In Greek we say, τους ξεγράψαμε. One of the most important one of the most important connections of Cyprus is the fact that the Cypriots of diaspora, refugees or not, stood by the side of Cyprus at all times, especially at difficult political, social, and economic difficulties. In 1974 and before, we need to stress here that the Cypriots of diaspora were the ones that created the so-called economic miracle in Cyprus, to materialize through injecting to Cyprus a huge financial assistance and investments. There is no doubt that this campaign will be at the end successful, provided the right support and solidarity is offered to us by the rest of the community and indeed by Cypriots and specifically refugees that live in other countries. The collection of thousands of signatures supporting our views could probably make it possible for a switch of the Cyprus state policy. The refugees of diaspora should be able to have the right of voting at Cyprus, not only at possible referendum, but at national parliamentary and presidential elections. This forum has done a lot of groundwork in relation to canvassing, between others, political leaders in Cyprus and who showed an understanding and readiness to support our cause. It is about time that Cyprus has to reinstate the violated human rights of the Cypriot refugees of diaspora, who were forced to abandon their property and land in Cyprus in order to save their lives. We call upon the government of Cyprus and the President of the Republic of Cyprus to initiate and implement legislation for the voting rights of Cypriot refugees abroad. Thank you very much.
Επόμενος ομιλητής ήταν ο εκπρόσωπος του Συνδέσμου Λαπίθου Καραβά Ηνωμένου Βασιλείου, κ. Σάββας Παυλίδης, ο οποίος ήταν ο μόνος που μίλησε στα ελληνικά με αφορμή την ιδιότητά του ως δάσκαλος των ελληνικών για πάρα πολλά χρόνια. Ας παρακολουθήσουμε τον κύριο Σάββα Παυλίδη.
Θα παρακαλούσα να μου επιτρέψετε να μιλήσω στα ελληνικά, γιατί είμαι δάσκαλος της ελληνικής γλώσσας εδώ για πολλά χρόνια και επειδή βλέπω μπροστά μου Έλληνες μόνο. Λοιπόν, είμαστε μπροστά σε ένα δίλημμα κατά κάποιους, κατά πόσον, αν δοθεί το δικαίωμα να ψηφίσουμε στο referendum που ελπίζουμε να έρθει και εύχομαι να μην βάζουμε την άμαξα μπροστά από τα άλογα, γιατί ακόμα δεν είδαμε τη λύση και προσωπικά τουλάχιστον έχω και τρομερές επιφυλάξεις αν θα φτάσουμε ποτέ εκεί. Παρόλο τούτον όμως, καλά είναι να ξέρουμε εκ των προτέρων τα δικαιώματα μας. Πρώτα απ' όλα, θεωρώ ότι είναι μεγάλη αδικία για πρόσφυγες Κύπριους που αναγκάστηκαν να εγκαταλείψουν με τη βία των όπλων των Τούρκων εισβολέων τα σπίτια και τις περιουσίες τους και να καταφύγουν είτε στην ελεύθερη Νότια Κύπρο, αν με επιτραπεί να πω, είτε στο εξωτερικό, να μην έχουν το δικαίωμα να ψηφίσουν. Αυτό είναι, κατά τη γνώμη μου, απαράδεκτο. Πολύ περισσότερο, γιατί τα γεγονότα του 1974 τα έζησαν, άλλοι με την επιστράτευση πολέμησαν, έχασαν συναδέλφους, συγγενείς, φίλους, γνωστούς, έχουν αγνοωμένους και άλλοι, τα γυναικόπαιδα, δέχτηκαν όλη εκείνη τη φρίκη του πολέμου και τις δοκιμασίες που είναι ανεξίτηλες. Εάν απαγορευτεί το δικαίωμα σε αυτούς τους ανθρώπους να ψηφίσουν για την τύχη του τόπου τους, για τα χωριά τους, για τις περιουσίες τους κλπ., είναι σαν να τους ξεγράφουν πραγματικά, για να χρησιμοποιήσω την ίδια λέξη που χρησιμοποιήθηκε προηγουμένως. Κάτι που πικραίνει και που θα κάνει πολύ κόσμο, απόδημο δικό μας κόσμο, να νιώθει πολύ άβολα και ίσως να τους αναγκάσουν να αλλάξουν και στάση έναντι της ιδιαίτερης πατρίδας μας. Πράγμα που απέφχομαι φυσικά. Επειδή όμως ακούστηκε εδώ και για οικονομικό θαύμα, όντως οι απόδημοι έδωσαν τη μερίδα του λέοντος σε ό,τι αφορά την οικονομική συνδρομή των συμπατριωτών μας για να σταθεί στα πόδια της η Κύπρος το 1974. Και όχι μόνο. Δεν θα αναφερθώ σε άλλες περιόδους. Προσωπικά, ίσως θα ήμουν ο τελευταίος που έπρεπε να μιλώ για αυτό το δικαίωμα, γιατί το έχω και πρέπει να το πω για να μην παρεξηγούμε. Εγώ ήρθα εδώ με απόσπαση από το Υπουργείο Παιδείας και έχω το δικαίωμα να ψηφίζω. Όμως, επειδή στο σύνδεσμο μας συζητήθηκε το θέμα και πάρα πολλοί συνάδελφοι, μέλη του συνδέσμου, είναι εδώ χωρίς να έχουν αυτό το δικαίωμα. Μιλώ περισσότερο εκ μέρους τους. Και το διασαφηνίζω για να μην παρεξηγηθώ. Και νιώθουν πάρα πολύ έντονα ότι καμιά δύναμη δεν μπορεί να τους εμποδίσει να έχουν το δικαίωμα να ψηφίσουν για τις περιουσίες τους και για την επιστροφή τους. Διότι, αν και απόδημοι, όλοι μας εμείς νοσταλγούμε να γυρίσουμε πίσω. Και θα γυρίσουμε πίσω αν υπάρξει λύση. Αν δεν έχουμε το δικαίωμα να ψηφίσουμε, μπορεί να καθοριστεί η τύχη μας από κάποιους άλλους που δεν είναι καν πρόσφυγες ίσως. Σαν πρόσφυγες δηλαδή νιώθουμε πολύ πιο έντονα από τους άλλους απόδημους ότι πρέπει να έχουμε αυτό το δικαίωμα. Προχωρώ όμως και λέω ότι ούτε και οι άλλοι Κύπροι απόδημοι πρέπει να στερηθούν του δικαιώματος αυτού, γιατί είναι προσδεδεμένοι στην Κύπρο για όλη τους τη ζωή. Και είναι οργανωμένοι στην αποδημία, σε συνδέσμους και σε συλλόγους και σε σωματεία και σε οργανώσεις, που πρώτον τους μέλημα, τουλάχιστον μέχρι την επίλυση του Κυπριακού, ήταν και εξακολουθεί να είναι η συνδρομή τους, η βοήθεια τους, ηλικοί και άλλοι, στην Κύπρο. Και αυτό αναγνωρίζεται από την Κυπριακή πολιτεία. Μας το λένε κάθε φορά που έρχονται εδώ επίσημοι κρατικοί αξιωματούχοι, πολιτικοί αρχηγοί κλπ. Θα ήταν οξύμορο λοιπόν, από τη μια να αναγνωρίζουμε την προσφορά αυτών των ανθρώπων, των αποδήμων, στον τόπο, και από την άλλη να τους κλείνουμε την πόρτα. Θα ήταν δε τρομερή αδικία, επαναλαμβάνω και τελειώνω, εάν το δικαίωμα αυτό στερηθεί και από τους πρόσφυγες απόδημους του 1974. Ευχαριστώ.
Επόμενη ομιλήτρια ήταν η Soula Kitsiou, εκπρόσωπος του συνδέσμου Morphou Ηνωμένου Βασιλείου, η οποία αναφέρθηκε στους λόγους για τους οποίους θα πρέπει να έχουν δικαίωμα ψήφου όλοι οι απόδημοι του εξωτερικού. Ας παρακολουθήσουμε την ομιλία της κυρίας Soula Kitsiou.
I'm going to speak as a refugee from Morphou. I just need to speak to you as a human being who wants to exercise their right to vote if there is a referendum about the solution of the Cyprus problem. I come from Morphou, which is a very beautiful area, as you may know. It was an affluent area and it was a very happy environment. And I do remember when we fled in 1974, I was a teenager and I fled with my family. And I do remember how much the family was completely in despair. We were running for our lives. We didn't know where to go. Our family came from Lapithos. That was the first influx of refugees. And we welcomed the people from Lapithos in our house, but we never ever realized we were also going to be forced to leave our homes. And for 5 years, I had no memory, not much memory of what happened, because I think at the back of my mind, I wanted to maybe not remember these traumatic times. When we came to London, we were welcomed by some family, and unfortunately my father, who was the pillar of the family, became ill and he died. So we took him back to Cyprus to bury him. We buried him in Limassol and we promised to him that we will take him back to Morphou. When I visited Cyprus after the borders, so-called borders, were opened, I remember I went to Morphou, and again it was just like being in a movie. It wasn't as if it was happening to me. And what I did, I took a soil from Morphou, and I took it to my father's grave as a token of my promise that one day we will take him back. And the same promise was given to the rest of the family members who died, like uncles and grandfather and grandmothers and so forth. And I'm never, ever going to let go of that promise. When I visited Morphou, I took my daughter to see Morphou. And I knew Morphou as an affluent, vibrant town what we saw was quite the opposite. So to be honest, my daughter was disappointed. And in fact, she said to me, "Is this what you're crying for?" So I had to explain, I had to take her around and say, okay, this is my home. My home is not the same as it used to be. My family is not around. You should have been born here, I said to her, but you were born in London instead. You should have been here. And I did explain that the house, as bricks and mortars, one day will fall. And this is what our children need to remember, that the affection and the connection we have with a home, i.e. a house, has to change. We have to look at the area as a whole, not just as our home, because the house will fall one day. But what I said to my daughter, I said, forget the house, okay? It's been neglected, it's not the same. Just look around you. So I took her around the area of Morphou. We went up to Lapithos, we went up to Xeros, we went everywhere. And I said, all this land, which is miles and miles and miles, it's ours. Do you think this is fair, what has happened? And she says, Mom, now I understand what you mean. And I understand why you're so passionate about not just Morphou, but the Cyprus that is occupied. When we came to London, we tried to make a life for ourselves. We did our best. We went to universities, colleges, we got jobs, we had family, we had children. This has happened in my lifetime and in my children's lifetime. So I think that the refugees and their children and all the people who come from the displaced area should be allowed to vote, because it is, I don't need to tell you, it's so unfair that a settler or a colonist, whatever we want to call them, that were imported from Turkey have the right to vote, and not myself and not my children. That's what I cannot understand, and this is what I will never accept. I don't think I can add anything else. I want to extend my appreciation to people that are not refugees. For example, like Theo, like Theodora, and all the other people. I'm sorry if I don't name all of you, because they work, and Christos over here, and all the other people, they work relentlessly, and they work much harder than I do, who am a refugee, for a justice solution to the Cyprus problem. And I know these people are very passionate and very correct, and they do it because they believe in it. They do not do it because they will gain anything out of it. And I wholeheartedly support that these people, who are not refugees, should be allowed to vote in the event of a referendum, because these are the people who make our community in England, and these are the people who have worked so hard, much harder than me, for a just solution to the Cyprus problem.
Επόμενος ομιλητής ήταν ο κύριος Άγγελος Beshonges, ο οποίος είναι εκπρόσωπος του Συνδέσμου Αγίου Αμβροσίου Ηνωμένου Βασιλείου. Ας παρακολουθήσουμε την ομιλία του κύριου Beshonges.
Εγώ δεν θα βρω δικαιολογία για την κρεβάτα, αν έχω τσακιό στο operation, έτσι, αν η φωνή μου έχει λίγο πρόβλημα, πρέπει να με συγχωρήσετε. Ούτε εγώ ήμουν προετοιμασμένος για μεγάλη ομιλία, αλλά ο πατέρας μου ήταν καθηγητής στην Αγγλική Σχολή στην Κύπρο και πάντα μου έλεγε, όταν βρεθείς κάπου και έχεις κάποιο πρόβλημα, δεν ξέρεις τι πεις, να τους πεις μια ιστορία. Και έτσι εγώ θα σας πω την ιστορία μου, πώς ήρθα εδώ στο Λονδίνο, τις περιστάσεις στην εισβολή. I don't know, should I say it in English or in Greek? I'm not quite sure. I'll say it in English. Anyway, I started from Ayios and Amvrosios. I was engaged. The first invasion, I'm going to keep it short. First invasion ran for our lives and ended up in Famagusta with my fiancée, where we had a flat there. And there comes the second invasion eventually, and everybody's running for their lives. And that's where I wanted to have one or two of the British MPs here today to listen to this. I know we have a chairman from Famagusta Association here. One of the biggest crimes that happened in Cyprus in the war, in the invasion in Cyprus, was when the British lorries from the bases came around just before the Turks bombed all the hotels along the line in Famagusta. They came around. Everybody was anything else but Greek Cypriot was allowed to get onto those lorries, and they took them to the bases, and from there they brought them over to England. It was like another Schindler's List, if you like to put it that way, but with the different candidates. Anybody that was Greek Cypriot was not allowed to get on the buses. I tried to get on with my wife, my fiancée. When they realized I had a Cypriot passport, you're out. I had to stay there. The last two bombs in Famagusta, it came on the Othello Court, the hotel that was next to it. I was there. I got injured. I lost my memory for 3 weeks. I ended up in Limassol, and then somehow somebody recognized me and sent me to my parents. That was in short what happened. Eventually I got my memory back. I came back to England. I got married and I have 2 lovely kids. However, recently with this referendum, it's brought things back to me. The pain and what we've been through all these years, you know. And like everybody else said, it's very unjust that we are the people that have lost everything in Cyprus, 42 years in this country. You know, we work, and I have to say, I don't know many of the people that voted last week in the elections that they have the so-called documents that they need to vote in the Cypriot elections. If any of them, even if 10% of them had proper documents to vote, everybody got their documents from one of their parties, the 2 big parties, or the others. We have been approached in the past, but I never accepted. And that is one of the things that's wrong. Wrong in Cyprus, and they should look into it, and they should take these papers away from everybody. They should not be allowed to vote, whilst we, the proper people from Cyprus, the refugees, they're going to vote about our own property, about our land. We lost 42 years, and nobody is considering to give us a vote. The last few weeks, the last few months, with the Lobby for Cyprus, we've had contacts with the leaders of the presidential, of the political parties in Cyprus, with the Omospondia, the federation here, some people from the federation, few people from the political leaders in this country. I know we have one here today, but I have not seen any of them stand behind us. And as you all know, Lobby for Cyprus is a non-political organization. We're not looking for anything. But I would have loved to see some of these political leaders from London to join us and support us for our right to be able to vote for our property, for our land, for being refugees for 42 years. There is no response from everybody. They're all hiding behind their little finger. Where are they today? Can you see? Apart from the gentleman there, do you see anybody else? No. And I have to say one more thing before I finish. I know we went to see the High Commissioner recently, and trust me, I did. He made us very welcome and very fair to us. We made our claim. He wrote to the President, and obviously we had a reply, which was straight no. And he also indicated that he wants the embassy to be the home of every Cypriot in London. I want to tell him that is a temporary home for every Cypriot refugee in London. The same way he went on the social media last week and asked people to vote for the referendum, for every Cypriot to vote in the referendum that's coming up in a month's time. The same way I want him to get on the social media and say, Angelos Beshonges should be able to vote in the referendum that has to do with his land. Thank you very much.
Πολλά ακόμα αποσπάσματα από αυτό το σεμινάριο, ομιλίες αλλά και διαλόγους που έγιναν θα τα παρακολουθήσετε προσεχώς στην εκπομπή με το φακό του Hellenic TV.